Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we've got some wild spice from the Open Master League featuring a fully maxed out level 50 Articuno going hunting for meta Pokemon like Landorus and Zygarde complete. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community. Here's Drewski, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now it goes without saying that level 50 Articuno not going to be a viable meta strategy by any means, but this trainer is actually able to have back-to-back positive sets, mainly targeting Landorus safe switch. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Picking up a great lead in the first match, Dialga Origin versus Palkia Origin. Opponent safe switches into Landorus and in comes Articuno. Even though Articuno is hitting for double super effective damage with the ice moves, Stone Edge can still threaten a one-hit KO. Articuno is going to commit the shield, getting the shield call right on the Stone Edge, and will now fire off the Icy Wind. Landorus commits the shield. Landorus unable to make the next move as the Ice Shard damage proves to be far too much. In comes Ho-Oh, but Ho-Oh is now going to have to deal with double super effective damage as well from the Ancient Power. Granted, it is still an Articuno, so it's not going to be outputting a tremendous amount of damage with the Ancient Power since it doesn't get the same type attack bonus, but it is able to force a shield. Opponent banks energy on Ho-Oh, sends in the Palkia, and that's going to be met with Dialga. And the Spatial Rend from Palkia will not KO here, so this is a pretty safe no shield. You can get it into a range where an Iron Head will knock out, and getting the Dialga as low as possible will just limit the amount of farm that the Ho-Oh can get. So the Ho-Oh is only going to get one Incinerate of energy, and now you have your own Ho-Oh in the back, so this game is just a win. You can just bring in the Articuno to force them to throw their energy and go for the Sacred Fire. You can bring in your own Ho-Oh. Opponent realizes there is not a win con, and they will resign the match. Picking up another positive lead in the next match, Dialga Origin versus Zygarde. Ideally, you would love the Zygarde to switch out, so then you can align the Articuno onto it later, but this opponent is staying in. Most Zygarde teams are run in a style that is ABA weak to Dialga, because Zygarde, it can stay in here and apply pressure, but it is still going to be a negative matchup for the opponent. Dialga shields, and it's a crunch bait that lowers the defense. An attempt at a catch onto Articuno. Opponent staying in here with the Zygarde, which is a pretty massive surprise. Zygarde goes for the crunch, gets another debuff. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Zygarde firing off a third crunch. The crunch finally does not get the debuff. The fact that they stayed in is a little unusual. They're actually going to send out Dawn Wings next, and Dawn Wings is now going to have to deal with back-to-back debuffs from Icy Wind. Icy Wind number 1, immediately followed by Icy Wind number 2. So the Dawn Wings is going to have some energy, but their damage output is drastically reduced. They're going to switch out, sending in the Xerneas, trying to make it to the Icy Wind, but the Geomancy damage says no. But the good news here is that you still have a Ho-Oh in the back, and Ho-Oh is just completely winning in this moment. Going to fire off the Iron Head, forcing the shield from the opponent, and you just never shield the Dialga. You can just bring in Ho-Oh, and the game has concluded. They go for the Moonblast. They do not want to debuff themselves just yet. But Moonblast or Close Combat, either option is terrible for the opponent. They end up throwing on Alignment. This is a veteran elo. This is not a bad elo. But the opponent throwing on Alignment there, giving an entire free Incinerate, and you cannot give a free Incinerate away if you're hoping to win a game. In comes Dawn Wings. Dawn Wings about to get cooked by a Sacred Fire from the Ho-Oh. And that is back-to-back wins with a Master League Articuno. Next match, but exact same leads, Dialga versus the Zygarde. Opponent safe switches into Landorus. How weak to ice can one team be? Oh my goodness. Landorus is going to be able to grab the shield from the Articuno, but it's with a Sandsear Storm bait. That's a bit unfortunate for the Articuno. Articuno returning fire with the Icy Wind. Icy Wind shielded up by the Landorus. Landorus looking to connect with a Stone Edge. Even though it's debuffed, it's still double super effective damage, so Articuno will double shield and commit to the farm down. They have to have some kind of ice resist in the back, and it is going to be Kyogre. At this point, Ho-Oh is useless. Ho-Oh can't really do much of anything against Kyogre or the Zygarde, so I wouldn't be opposed to just throwing it away. And here we have it, throwing away the Ho-Oh. This is perfect. You save an Icy Wind for later, because you know Icy Wind, of course, will do incredibly well versus the Zygarde. Kyogre, I mean, this Brave Bird does a lot, but Kyogre can survive this. I imagine they're just going to try and save the shield for the Zygarde. They actually shield. In my view, that's a pretty big misplay by them, because now they just don't really have a way to win the game. Like, they can go for a Blizzard, but this is a Dialga Origin. It does not care about Blizzards. The Blizzard connects, they can send in the Zygarde, but Zygarde is getting outpaced here. Zygarde switched out instantly. They have no residual energy. So this is just going to be a Roar of Time to the face that picks up the KO. In comes Kyogre. Even if they surf, there's an Ancient Power banked. They try for the farm down, which is going to be unsuccessful. Iron Head knocks out Kyogre and takes the win. We've got mirror leads in the next match, Dialga versus Dialga. Not a terrible spot to be in. You do need to keep the Dialga away from the Articuno. We already see the safe switch to the Ho-Oh, checking to see if the opponent has a potential Kyogre in the back. Opponent is going to farm up a ton of energy on their Dialga and then bring in their own Ho-Oh. So far, mirror teams, but you know there's no way they have an Articuno in the back. It's just not going to happen. Opponent does win charge attack priority. Brave Bird picks up the KO. In comes Dialga. Dialga looking for the full farm down. This will be close and gets the farm down. That's a massive, massive farm because the opponent had stored a considerable amount of energy, and this lets Drewski's Dialga catch back up. Opponent full sends the Roar of Time, but Drewski is going to be going for the bait. The Iron Head bait to the Dialga does get shielded, and that is quite nice, as now the Dragon Breath will put this very close to Iron Head range. Firing off the Iron Head, this will be very close as to whether it KOs. The Iron Head barely does not. The switch to the Articuno, and it's Dawn Wings in the back. Dawn Wings firing off a Dark Pulse. This is not enough for a Moongeist Beams, who are going to see a no shield. Oh, they're running Iron Head. They're running Iron Head on the Dawn Wings. Oh my goodness. I am not entirely familiar with what additional moves the Necrozma forms can learn. That is good to know that it can learn Iron Head. At this point, I think you just try and commit to Dialga as a win con. If the opponent does have a move on their Dialga, then the game is over. Although they're low enough that honestly, even if they do, one turn of Dragon Breath might just snipe it. So we're going to see a switch, and the Dragon Breath does get the snipe. Dialga farms down Dawn Wings as well, and is able to take the win. What do you know? Another match, and we are back to Zygarde leads. This Zygarde is staying in, which is pretty good news for the Ho-Oh, but ideally you would love to have the Articuno on it. We're going to see a massive overfarm by both trainers, both farming up past their nukes. Iron Head bait, shielded up. Is this a Zygarde that actually Earthquakes? A lot of them love going for the Crunch bait, and they do actually go for the Earthquake. That's a bit of a surprise. Dialga gonna farm up. I mean, at this point, you've done enough Dragon Breath damage that an Iron Head will actually be able to knock out, and it does, allowing Dialga to win lead. Opponent sends in Necrozma, but this is going to be Dusk Mane. Dusk Mane not nearly as tanky as Solgaleo, so Roar of Time does massive damage here. The Roar of Time connects. They're already deep into the red health, and then you can just send in Ho-Oh. In comes Ho-Oh, but the Incinerate gets denied. That's so unfortunate. Opponent goes for the Sunsteel Strike in the back. Oh no, it's Xerneas, and they throw on alignment. Oh my goodness. We're going to see a shield here of the Moonblast. Throwing on alignment is just brutal. My goodness. Given 20 free energy. I mean, this is the second time it's happened in this video. We're going to see the banking of the move, and now just the switch to the Articuno. Articuno going to be able to withstand the damage here as Xerneas goes for the Moonblast. Articuno making it to the Icy Wind, but losing charge attack priority. Again, Articuno, definitely a meme Pokemon. It's going to be losing charge attack priority to just about everything, but it does survive that close combat barely. The Icy Wind will pick up the KO. Dawn Wings, not Dawn Wings, Dusk Mane is going to get that farm down, but then Ho-Oh has the Brave Bird loaded, and that will secure the win. Great lead in the next match, Dialga Origin versus Palkia Origin, and if there's a Palkia lead, there's almost always going to be a Landorus safe switch for Articuno to feast on. Opponent firing off their charge attack, letting an entire Ice Shard through. The shield, unfortunately, does come on a Sandsear Storm bait. The opponent now going to be hit with the Icy Wind that will be shielded. Opponent makes it to the Stone Edge, again throwing on alignment. This is around veteran Elo. I'm shocked. The Stone Edge connects, but it does not KO. Articuno 1 HP, able to take down the Landorus and exit with the Icy Wind. The Icy Wind will debuff the Palkia in the back. The opponent has their own Ho-Oh, and this is looking very, very good here. Opponent will fire off energy. I think the safe play is just to call the Sacred Fire, because a lot of Hoos will go for the Sacred Fire first. But Drewski is now just going to go for the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will do some pretty significant damage. Opponent is going to let that through. It'll come down to a potential CMP tie, but the opponent chooses not to throw their energy. Instead, they are just going to let themselves get KO'd and try and win the game with Palkia. Palkia has energy, but here's the thing, this is not a range where a Spatial Rend will KO. Drewski, he's thinking about calling it, calls it, it's the Aqua Tail, and the opponent just gonna let themselves get farmed down, as once that is no shielded, there is no longer a win con available. Same leads next match, Dialga versus Palkia. We see, oh no, he thought it was gonna be the Landorus safe switch, but it's a Ho-Oh safe switch. Disaster strikes. Oh my goodness. Ho-Oh goes for the Sacred Fire, and it's a CMP tie with Articuno and the Ancient Power. That is such an unfortunate turn of events. Articuno going to be able to make it to Ancient Power number 2. This does not KO Ho-Oh, we have seen this, but the opponent may not know that, so the opponent actually ends up double shielding a move that they could have definitely survived. In comes Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh going to be able to survive at least one charge attack here. We know the opponent has a Palkia, so shielding the Ho-Oh doesn't really feel like a top priority. Ho-Oh gonna farm up, go for the Brave Bird, winning charge attack priority over the opponent. That is very clutch, as this Brave Bird is going to be able to knock out. In comes Palkia. We see the switch to Dialga, and the Palkia is not switching out. Palkia can fire off the Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend would get Dialga deep into the red. The shield, the bait, opponent continuing to stay in here. Dialga says you are not getting off another charge attack and will pick up the knockout with the Iron Head. What is that final Pokemon? It is Landorus, and Landorus is going to be taking substantial damage from Iron Head. Landorus has a terrific matchup here, but with shields down, it just takes so much damage. Landorus building up to the back-to-back Sand-Tier Storms, but here's the thing, they still need 2 more Mud Shots for a Stone Edge. In comes the Ho-Oh. They do not get there, and that is another win. Somehow, against all odds, this team just keeps on winning. Mirror lead in the next match, so a couple Dragon Breaths and a Ho-Oh safe switch will unfortunately be answered with Kyogre. With this team, I mean, you have to bait out the Kyogre, but it's still not an amazing matchup because I was going to say Kyogre does not have to shield this and can farm all the way down, but the opponent makes a pretty big error. They end up shielding a Brave Bird that they don't have to shield, and now this just sets up Drewski's Dialga to potentially run away with the game. There is so much energy on this Kyogre. We do see the shield, and they're actually not running Blizzard. Instead, they are running Origin Pulse. So now Dialga can tank an Origin Pulse, farm all the way down, and exit with 100 energy, which is very, very tough to deal with. Opponent is going to save the Kyogre, send in Dialga, and Dialga will immediately be met with the Roar of Time. Roar of Time does get shielded, but now Articuno has to try and deal with Dialga, and this is not a good spot to be as the Articuno. Articuno really relies on type advantage matchups, so in a matchup where it's neutral damage all around, this is a big problem. Like, this Icy Wind is not going to do a lot of damage, and this is why Articuno is a pick for fun rather than for climbing, because in these neutral matchups, like those 2 Icy Winds, not being enough to KO is absolutely devastating, and this is a double super effective Iron Head. The Iron Head, oh, we actually see an undercharge by the opponent. What a beautiful play. It's Xerneas in the back, and the team does suffer its first loss in set number 2. Great lead in the next match, Dialga versus, oh my goodness, that's a blast from the past, a Zekrom. Zekrom used to be played a ton in the Master League, but now with Pokemon like the Dialga Origin and the Landorus being as strong as they are, it's very, very tough to bring. We're going to see the Brave Bird fired from Ho-Oh in the mirror. It's not going to be enough to KO. Ho-Oh could potentially go for a shield in the farm down, and that's exactly what we're going to see. The opponent will go for the Sacred Fire. We are going to just barely see a farm down. But the issue here is Zekrom does not have to shield this. Zekrom knows it is going to be resisted. They could potentially decide to shield if they wanted to preserve a little HP, but I can't blame them for just letting that go, knowing it's not going to do a lot of damage, but it's not going to matter, because in the back, it's Landorus, and Landorus is up a shield, but he's taking so much damage. Landorus goes for the Stone Edge, it gets shielded, and now the Landorus is in a tremendous amount of trouble. The Icy Wind will pick up the KO. Back in comes Zekrom. Zekrom trying to sweep. It still has 2 shields available, but it's now going to have to do so with -1 attack. The Icy Wind, Zekrom has no way of resetting this debuff, and the Ice Shards are actually adding up. Fusion Bolt, not going to be enough to KO. Articuno is going to get farmed down, but even an Outrage, not going to be nearly enough to KO Dialga. And that is win number 8 from the past 9 battles. Great lead in the final match here, as we do see the Dialga versus the Palkia. Opponent safe switches into Zacian, and Zacian is going to be answered with Ho-Oh. One Wild Charge is not going to be enough to knock out. It does do quite a lot of damage, so the Wild Charge will connect. Opponent, suboptimal timing there. They only throw 1 quick attack and the move, but Ho-Oh is going to be able to go for the Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire, of course, I mean, they're on -4 defense. It'll easily KO unless they shield, and they decide to let that through, just fully sacrificing the Zacian. They can send back in the Palkia, but Palkia is not going to get the farm down before the Brave Bird is reached. Ho-Oh made sure to farm up to 100 before throwing, which means at 100 energy, you're only going to be 1 off. In the back, it's Landorus. Landorus did get a substantial energy lead, and that could potentially be worrisome. Articuno shields. It's a bait as well. Oh, this is really not great. Articuno forced to fire off its energy instantly here just to apply this debuff to try to survive this Stone Edge. Is this Stone Edge going to be enough to KO here? I believe we saw in the past, it's barely not enough to KO. And again, the Articuno at -1 is barely able to hang on here. The Stone Edge is debuffed. In comes the Palkia, and now it's Palkia versus Dialga. You don't have to catch here, but a catch would be absolutely hilarious. We unfortunately don't get to see the catch. The Spatial Rend will connect, but Dialga will make it to the Iron Head. And Iron Head, this is very close to a range where it will knock out. Iron Head plus 1 more Dragon Breath will be enough to secure 9 out of 10 wins in the Master League, running a Master League Articuno. All in all, I really enjoy getting to see unorthodox picks have success in Go Battle League, and honestly, I'd say especially so in the Open Master League. I feel like to do so, you really have to have an idea of a particular Pokemon or team that you're targeting, and in this case, he was definitely targeting Palkia lead with Landorus safe switch. Saw it quite a few times because it is a very powerful combination, but man, it was absolutely hilarious to just watch Landorus get absolutely cooked with double super effective damage again and again and again. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.